What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Snaj V Show. I am excited today because I get to talk to you about that great word called safety, and how many people will play it safe, right? How many people will essentially make decisions and choices and take actions that are going to keep them safe. It's really those people that don't like to take risks. It's really those people that don't see that there could be an opportunity in the hardship that you're potentially facing. And I share this with you because I want to share this story of essentially what happened to me when I came to America. And when you come to America, you obviously have to have your visa. You have to have all this paperwork. And when you come here, and let's say if you're coming here without like really someone to help you, you have to figure it out. And I had no idea. I needed to get a social security number, and I didn't know really why I needed to do that. But then I understood that basically that creates almost like who you are. And with the social security number, you can then go and apply for loans. You can apply for cars. You can apply for whatever else that you want. And the hard part for me was that I didn't really have any scores. Everything over here was about a credit score, and I had no idea what that meant. So, it was so different from everything that I was used to. So I would go to apply for something, and the first thing they wanted was a social security number, and then the second thing they wanted was to run a check, a credit score check, and I didn't have either of those. So once I figured out that I've got to go get this social security number, got that, I then needed to get the credit score, but I had no bank accounts here. I didn't have a track record. I really didn't have anything. All I had was my Australian bank accounts, and that wasn't really going to serve me at all. So I had to figure out, how am I going to actually provide a reputable kind of concept of, what I am like. And banks don't care about that. So I was also facing a lot of, hardship in my mental state. I wasn't getting paid much, if anything at all. And my relationships were failing. My mental health was hitting like an all-time low. And so essentially what happened is I was still trying to figure it out. So I went to go try and apply for, to live somewhere, for apartment complexes or whatever. And a lot of the time they would turn me away because they're like, oh, we can't run a credit check. So therefore you really wouldn't pass. We can't have you live here. So I got turned down quite a lot. And the same thing happened when I was trying to get a car. That's why I had my bike with me, so that I could, at least get places on my bike. But I really needed a car. Everyone knows that you need a car when you live in Southern California. So basically what happened is I got my social security number, and I had an amount of money that I came over to the States with, where it could essentially kind of carry me forward for a few months. It was enough to live off, but it wasn't going to be enough to survive off. So really, I took some pretty big risks with this. And I remember going into the car dealer to lease a car, and they said, you really need someone to either put their name on this lease, or you need to give me a really hefty down payment. And I was thinking to myself, I'm leasing a car, why would I need to put a big down payment? The reason for that is because it's basically a security check. So I had to pour a lot of my money, that big lump sum that I'm talking about, into just that security deposit. So I did that, and then I found an apartment complex, and I had to do the same thing. I had to put a big security deposit just to solidify that, hey, I know what I'm doing. I have a job, I have money, whatever. Now, all of that went downhill really, really fast. It got to the point where I really couldn't really afford the payment on the car, and I couldn't afford to live where I was, especially because of all of the money I was pouring into my therapist at the time. So I would pay my therapist up to $500 a week just to see him as often as I was. And, that's a lot of money when you're thinking about it, having all of these other expenses and these responsibilities. And I share that with you because for me, it didn't matter. For me, it was like my mental health, my career, my long-term vision mattered more than a car, a house, what I lived. I didn't care. I didn't care if I lost it all. And so I put it at risk. The point is that I didn't play it safe. I didn't go, well, I'm just going to safely spend the money, or spend whatever money I was earning and what I had on, being able to transport myself places and live where I wanted to live. Because really, ultimately, unless you're in a solid headspace, unless you have some good mental health, there's no point. There's no point going places. No, there's no point living under a nice house or a good apartment. There's no point because you're just going to be miserable. Because the best home that you have is the home that you kind of live in your mind. Like, we have so much going on in our heads, and we don't realize that that's actually where we truly live. We live in this headspace that we have every single day. And where we take that headspace and where we take the emotions that come with that headspace, they matter. And so for me, I took as many risks as possible because I didn't want to play it safe. And I don't understand why people play it safe. They will hold on to jobs. They will hold on to these commitments, these relationships, because it's safe. And playing it safe is playing it easy. And every single time I hear about people who just hold on to things, whether it is a position at their work, a relationship that they have, or a habit that they can't drop, they're playing it safe. And every single time you play it safe, and every single time you just try and kind of like lock into that, all you're doing is you're sabotaging yourself and you're holding yourself back. Like, we all hold ourselves back. And if we stop doing that, we open doors. But instead, in playing it safe, what we're doing is we're essentially closing every single door. Every single safety decision, every single safety choice that you make, you close the door. And every single day that you're closing these doors, the more you're basically saying no to an opportunity. And I share that with you because if I constantly played it safe, I wouldn't have actually moved forward in my life. I opened my gym in a very risky circumstance. I said no to other opportunities. I could have easily, safely gone back home when everything went to shit for me. I easily could have said, this is all too hard. I can't handle it. I'm not mentally tough enough to do it. I could have easily said to myself, let's just take it back home. Let me just go back home and go into that safe zone, go back to comforts, go back to the support that I had. But instead I stayed. Instead, I made the decision and the choice to leave everything that I had and stay here. And I had, very few people who supported that. I had a few people that said, no, stick it out. And I'm grateful for those people who said that because they saw in me a sense of toughness and grit that I didn't have at the time. And sometimes you need that. But I share that with you because it could have been easy for me to play it safe. It could have been easy to go back to a job that gave me a lot of money. It could have been easy for me to go back to the relationships that essentially were exactly the same all day long and I didn't grow in. And it could have been really easy for me to go back to a comfort level that honestly just gave me whatever I wanted. But I chose the harder route. I chose the path that was least traveled because very few people can. And you either have it in you to take risks or you really have to develop it. If you have it in you, that's great because honestly, developing it is a much harder skill, trait, whatever you want to call it, to grasp. But when you really try to take the risks that you don't even know where they're going to lead. But once you take that leap, once you actually go, you know what, whatever the risk is that's involved in this, whatever the reward is that's involved in this, I'm just going to walk this path. I'm going to commit myself to it. I'm going to believe in the bigger picture for it. And I'm just going to handle it. And when you do that, you'd be mind blown at what could happen for you. If I didn't stay, I wouldn't have the gym that I have today. I wouldn't have the business. I wouldn't have the mentors. I wouldn't have the friendships. I wouldn't have the coaches. I wouldn't have anything that I have today. I have every single thing that I have today because of the risks that I have taken in my life. And that has led me to the people I've come across, that has led me to the life that I live. And I wouldn't change one thing in the world. And a lot of the time I see people living in places of comfort that don't have to deal with anything difficult. And they don't grow because people who live in comfort zones don't grow. They choose that. They choose to stay still. They choose to stay stagnant. They don't want to enhance themselves. They don't care to actually put themselves out there because it's easier. And why would you? Why wouldn't you want to just stay easygoing, doing the same thing day in, day out? Well, you don't have to be pushed. You don't have to be challenged. Why would you, right? unless you actually start to go, it's one of the human needs. Growth is one of the 6 human needs. And if you don't do it, you don't feel fulfilled. And if you don't feel fulfilled, you then become unhappy. And then the more unhappy you become, the more you become a kind of a bad person, because you start to get angry, you start to get upset, you start to get bitter and resentful, you start to not like who you are, you start to not like people around you. It starts to create this ripple effect where it just keeps going on and on and on unless you make a change. So I'm here to share this with you because I want you to take risks. I want you to take that risk that you're thinking about, the risk that ultimately you're just worried about taking, that one that you are most scared of, right? What we fear the most is what we should do the most. And it doesn't matter how scared you are of it. It doesn't matter what it could potentially mean for you. But once you can look that fear in the face and you can own it and you're going to do it anyway, your rewards will come. But if you keep avoiding what scares you, if you keep avoiding what fears you have, then it's going to come at you even harder, even faster, until you actually make the decision. And I share that with you because that's what was calling out to me. It was coming out to me in multiple different messages, multiple different ways. I was being told to stick it out, to try harder, and to take some big risks. I was being told that, but I was also telling myself, no, just go back to comfort. Just go back to the easy. Don't take any risks. Don't do anything like that. That's just like, that's not you. It's not going to lead to a good future. And so I would tell myself that. And the problem with that is that I'm not facing fear and doing it anyway, right? And this is part of the problem, that most people don't want to do things anyway. They look at things and how difficult things are and they turn the opposite direction. And if you just turn the opposite direction every single time, you're just going to be avoiding your entire life. So start to confront the fears that you have. Start to be the person who is strong enough to face the fears that you have, and start to actually overcome the adversities that come your way. And the more that you do that, the more you're practicing it. And as you practice it, you get better at it. And then guess what? You are way better equipped. You can handle a lot more, and you'll be able to then develop yourself to be a stronger, more resilient person. So take the risks and then learn the lessons from those risks so that you can actually gain more experience. And in your experience, you're going to become wiser. You're going to become better able to handle everything that comes your way. So I hope that's helpful for you guys. And I hope that you understand that, like all the risks that I've taken up until this point, it doesn't stop me from taking more risks moving forward. I take big risks all the time. I just took big risks in the last month. I'll probably take more big risks in the future. And I'm not really sure where they're going to lead, but you know what? I'm going to give them a go. Because I know that if I don't, I'm not going to grow. I'm not going to put myself in a place where maybe I have to work harder, maybe I have to work smarter. I have to do something that's going to challenge me. So I hope that you can do that. I hope that you can take the message from this and you can apply that in your life in a way that is going to serve you and others moving forward. So just remember, guys, you are one decision away from a completely different life. And we'll see you in the next one.